Call of Duty 12? I'll take it!
Now I know what you're thinking. Clickbait, clickbait, clickbait. Don't worry, don't worry, don't worry. I'm like Donald Trump. I want to say something crazy just to get everybody's attention, and then once I have your attention, I'm going to let you know what's actually going on. Have you read his gun plan, by the way? Because it's actually pretty great. What I mean is that the campaign in Call of Duty is the best it's been in years. The multiplayer is the worst it's ever been, so we'll get into that in depth. I just wanted to reel y'all in and let you know the truth. Graphically, Infinite Warfare is a good-looking game. The cutscenes are very well produced. The mocap's good. The character models are all very detailed. 60 FPS very, very consistently throughout the game. I only had one bad dip while I was getting into the Jackal, and that was it. And it was like clearly trying to load the next thing. But other than that, very, very clean running game. And that's generally what you get with Call of Duty. You get a very stable 60 frames per second. You get a very high textured, well lit gun in the corner. You get a very pretty, polished game on the surface with very few bugs, very few issues running. And then that's all you get. It's very arcadey, it's very small, it's very confined, it doesn't do much with the formula. Call of Duty's engine's more built for a cinematic game rather than a sandboxy open, let you do what you want kind of game. It's very cutscene heavy, there isn't a lot of depth, there isn't a lot of gameplay complexity to it. You're not gonna see a blimp catch on fire and fall to the sky and still have the shell on the battlefield. Nothing's really destructible. It's a very arcadey game. What Call of Duty does go for is the casualness and accessibility of it. The art style for Infinite Warfare is very hit and miss. In the campaign, it's okay, and then some of the ships look really cool. There's some very well-directed, very cool-looking cutscenes. That cannot be good for the environment. It's clearly very inspired by Halo at times with how ships are flying through cloud layers and it's all very colorful. So at times the game looks really good. But you know, in multiplayer, the art style is indistinguishable from Advanced Warfare, Ghosts, and Black Ops 3, except that Black Ops 3 actually had some pretty looking maps. So that's more of a multiplayer complaint than a campaign complaint. Unfortunately, Infinite Warfare also had some terrible install times. It took forever, and it wouldn't download when my PS4 wasn't on. So, you know, first there's the actual update, which was relatively small, but then the game wants to, like, keep installing after you start it up, and it's like the game actually isn't ready yet, but it let you start it. Game files are getting ridiculously big these days. They need to figure out a way to make them more playable. The campaign is fabulous. I downright loved the campaign. It has more in common with Star Trek and Mass Effect than it does the last few Call of Duties. I am not kidding. The introduction reminds you of Star Wars, just this long sweeping shot of all these big capital ships. This very evil, menacing tone. The music is phenomenal. The opening intro theme, I can't stop humming. I actually remembered the characters' names. Captain Reyes. He was a very capable dude. He wasn't like, you know, Marines America, oorah, oorah, oorah.
For 21 damaged! Retribution, break engagement, fall back!
But when things are getting intense, he's like yelling at people and going shit, and it like sells it well. The story was the best it's been in years. It feels so different. People have been like, we don't like the near future, near future, near future. This is not near future. We have faster than light travel. This is clearly full-on sci-fi gaming right here. There's like a hub world on your starship where you go back and forth between missions and you go to choose the armor, you go talk to people, and then you like go to the galaxy map to pick which kind of missions you want to do. There's some side missions that aren't required. There's the actual main campaign missions with the cutscenes and all that. In that aspect, it feels very not Call of Duty, and I couldn't be more thankful for that. Some of the cutscenes are damn cool. The set pieces are better than just shit falling underneath you. There was some stuff like where you actually see it on screen, and you like, because what's happening, you feel this sense of loss, and it's like, oh shit. And there is a, I'm going to use fancy game critic sentence here, the sense of desperation in the uphill battle of these characters is palpable. Palpable.
What is it, Ethan?
The Aegis guns. They appear to be tracking our fleet. Incoming! I'll take it!
But yeah, I don't want to spoil anything, and that's another praise. I actually care about spoiling the campaign because it is a good story and I want you to experience it. It gets very depressing near the end. There are some very good conversations about, like, what the captain can and shouldn't do. It feels like a theme that would be tackled in a Star Trek episode. The production value of the campaign is also great fun. Just the jackals, which are the little space combat ships, every time you go on a mission, it makes you launch it, and you, like, slowly push the stick forward and then click it, and it feels like you're, like, putting a gear shift on a console, and it's cool. The warp jumps too, when we move to a different planet, they're like 3, 2, 1, and they're shouting space mumbo jumbo, but it sounds like realistic space mumbo jumbo. They're like talking about how accurate the jump is gonna be, whether or not we might hit something along the way, and if the hull is gonna hold together because the ship is not in the best of prepare. There's a point when it gets really close to the sun, and it's like absurdly bright. It's like, polarize the glass, polarize the glass. Some seemingly pretty accurate, on-point space stuff. That's cool. One of the best aspects of the campaign is the space combat. It adds so much variety and depth. Finally, we have a second tier of combat in Call of Duty. It's not just one little mission where you fly around in a jet. It is an entirely new section of combat. It controls very well. You can pivot up, down, left, right. There's a boost. There are flares if you get hit by missiles. There are different kinds of weapons. There are different aspects of the bigger destroyers that you want to target. And when you're just kind of flying alongside them and just firing your cannons at them and they're blowing up and they're firing back, it looks awesome. Now, when you're fighting the actual other fighter jet kind of ships, like, the lock-on is a little too guided, it's a little too easy, it doesn't require that much skill. It is a little basic, and if they wanted to make it into a full-fledged mode, they'd have to add a little more depth and a little more mechanics, like a shield maybe that you could turn on and off. Because really, all you can do to avoid damage from other guns is just kind of fly away. But it is a damn good start! Now, you still have the Call of Duty on-foot gunplay. There is, like, a portable shield where if you pull up left bumper, you'll, like, block bullets and everything, and you can bash people with that. It's more of a piece of equipment, though, and then a full-fledged combat mechanic. I really think they should have gone all in with the shield and the grapple, add a few different things, and anything to break up the tedium of stand behind cover, reload, shoot out, pop, 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 back behind cover. Because that does get boring, that does get repetitive. One new tactical grenade they have is you throw it and it's a foam wall and it creates cover for you. Those are cool. But that's only one of 4 tactical grenades you can use in the campaign. If I'm looking back, Modern Warfare 3 had 6, 7, 8, didn't it? That's the biggest problem with the multiplayer too, is the amount of weapons, the amount of equipment is very scaled down. The enemies are very bullet spongy, especially the robots. The time to kill in the campaign in general is just way too high. Guess what difficulty I played it on? I played it on regular. I played it on the easiest difficulty. Played it on beginner mode. And it still took forever to kill enemies, and I still died a lot, and that's kind of a problem. This game's got a difficulty curve problem. Also, something terrible is the flinch animation. It's like, when you get hit, you should flinch a little. That makes sense. But it also blurs the screen and makes it hard to see and shoot back. Why did you do that, man? The villain is once again following the Call of Duty, find somebody famous, and it's Jon Snow from Game of Thrones, and they gotta realize that having a good villain doesn't just mean having somebody famous and having them look at the camera and explain to you why they're evil. He gets better near the end, but what the nice thing is he isn't the point of the game. It's not like defeat Jon Snow. He is a guy who shows up from time to time.
This is Admiral Sailing Koch of the Olympus Mons. All Sato forces are ordered to surrender for immediate execution.
Surrender for execution? Lol. Now, the on-foot 0G in space combat when you're out of the Jackal is exceedingly poor. They have this thing where it keeps telling you to realign, but you never need to realign because it's really still just a 2-dimensional space, even though you can move up and down a little. But when you're trying to walk on the hull, it'll flip you like whatever direction the hull that you're standing on is, so since there's no gravity, and that is so confusing. And it's really easy to get stuck in a shaky loop doing that. But you do have a grapple that can pull you to people, and that's fun for a little bit. They could have had a mechanic like magnet boots, where like if you're inside and the environment is 0G, just design the levels so they can be flipped 3-dimensionally, and then have a choomp, like turn on a button so that you stick to the wall. They just kind of scriptedly turn the gravity back on in the ship, and then it becomes a normal level again. And in that regard, the movement, the wall running, the jetpack is just as useless as ever, man. Even in multiplayer, you still can't go where you clearly should be able to go. All it does is speed up the movement speed a little. It's basically a temporary sprint jump button. It doesn't make new points of the map accessible. It's just not used well. People made fun of the follow me thing a lot, but at least it told you where to go. There was a lot of times where I wish it would have done that because I'm like, wait, where do I go? Where do I go? The good guys and the bad guys look identical, so sorry to all my teammates. In the army, it lets you pick your loadout before the mission, and I don't see any reason why you can't have 2 primaries. It's like primary and then secondary, but once you're in the mission, you can just pick up another primary in your other weapon slot, so. The only new weapon I did like that wasn't just random future bullshit, or the future version of an M4, or the future version of an AK, was the Type 2, because it had a very slick, clean look to it. Kind of looks like the FMG9, but there's 2 of them, and it's a laser gun, and the reticle's really sleek, just very clean looking, and you can snap it apart and have 2 akimbo hip-fire weapons, and that thing was cool, especially coupled with one mission where the robots are just running at you. It was like, it's like a last stand. That was a fun mission. It's the robot apocalypse! Some parts of the campaign were kind of hard to buy, though. There's a part where a guy's just beating the crap out of me, and I'm like, I'm in a metal suit right now, and you're in a jumpsuit. Like, really? There's a mission where the entire point is to pick up an enemy prototype weapon and bring it back with you, and it uses one of your weapon slots. So I had it, and then I dropped it and swapped it out for something, so it's sitting there on the ground as we go back to the thing. So maybe he got the schematic for it or something, I don't know. Alright, and any military or any planet or organization that decides to have a fleet day, an annualized time where everybody knows we're gonna have our entire fleet in one spot at the same time every year, deserves to get it hijacked and blown up. Like, seriously, that was retarded. But on the whole, very, very solid step up from the campaign. Definitely worth playing, definitely worth at least renting for the campaign. The production's good, the cutscene's good, the story's better than Battlefield 1 and Titanfall 2 combined. There's some very good acting, some very good music, and it is a great playthrough. At times it relies on the old Call of Duty formula a little too much, but it is so much better than it has been. Now, remember all the praise I just gave the space combat about being super fun? Why in the hot shit isn't that the multiplayer? It's up to you, Activision. Do you want a new in-depth mode with several steps of space combat that's all innovative, that's fun, that controls well, that looks awesome when you're doing it, that throws an entirely new curveball to the series? Or do you want to give us the same wall-runny, sprint-around, instant spawn-death bullshit that we've had the last 4 years and is indistinguishable from the last 5 Call of Duties? Shit! Somebody could try to say, oh, if they made it to space combat, then it wouldn't be Call of Duty anymore. Yes, that's exactly the point. People hate Call of Duty right now. You've got to change it. Anybody who likes what it was, guess what? Play any of the old games. This is a new game. Do something new. Damn it. The maps are so ugly and boring. They all look exactly the same. There are so few weapons. There are 5 ARs and 4 pistols, and 3 of them are Glocks. Time to kill is so ridiculously low. It doesn't matter what weapon it uses. It just matters if you have aim assist on and who sees them first. The only fun I had in the multiplayer was taking the ball in the oddball mode and just standing still and getting killed because it made my teammates angry, and I thought that was funny. Welcome to Death Simulator 2016.
Free for all. You're on your own, soldier.
Enemy scout active. Enemy UAV.
Oh, come on. Really?
You're in last place. Change your strategy. Complete this mission or don't come back.
Stop yelling at me. Wait, no, please! They can't kill me if I'm dead. I did it! And then there's a zombies mode, I guess, if you want to be bored. I cannot see any reason to justify a $60 purchase of the game, even if the campaign is good, because really, you play through the campaign once, you're done, you're like, that was cool, and you give it back. There's no reason to spend $60 on that, unless the multiplayer is good. My recommendation would be to rent the game, play through the campaign once, and you'll be surprised. You'll be like, wow, that was cool. Now, do I think it's worth $80 to get the Modern Warfare Remastered? Hell no. Even if you wanted Modern Warfare Remastered, just wait. They'll release it as a standalone for like 20, 25 bucks eventually. I can't believe they bundled it together. That was bullshit. This year, I'm gonna choose to judge Call of Duty on the campaign because that was very good. And for that alone, I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10. It's the first Call of Duty in years that I actually enjoyed playing a lot and would recommend to other people, so that's something to be said. Now, Infinite Warfare 2 is never going to happen, because regardless of how good the game was, it sold terribly. Very curious to see what they're going to try next, because they're running out of options, so they gotta actually start being creative. Maybe they'll make a Modern Warfare 4, maybe they'll go back to World War II, or maybe they'll do my cool time-jumpy zombie thing that I proposed a while ago. In any event, bye-bye.